Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
That's what I'm talking about. All of our guests today, including Ross Tucker, standing by to talk NFL, sponsored by Passant Motors. It's Passant Motors' 31st anniversary, and they are celebrating with their biggest sale of the year. Great deals, great selection, as always. Learn more at basantmotors.com. Joined now from the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Westwood One, and CBS Sports. Ross Tucker. How are you, sir?
Awesome. How are you guys doing?
Very, very well. What do you like about your 4-0 Eagles? What has made them so successful, Russ?
Oh, geez. Right now, just about everything, man. I don't think there's a team that has a better overall roster than them. Now, that doesn't mean they're the best team, but top to bottom, their roster is really, really good. Howie Roseman, their GM's done an unbelievable job. And then I think one of the questions about the Eagles through the first 3 weeks was just about their resiliency, right? How would they overcome adversity? They had been rolling people with these big leads. Well, we found out. They were down 14-0 to Jacksonville early, and then they scored 29 unanswered points. So the question about adversity was answered immediately by the Eagles and definitively. Even one of the questions the first couple of weeks was that their high-priced free agent Hassan Reddick hadn't done that much. Well, yesterday, he strips Trevor Lawrence twice for sack fumbles in the fourth quarter. It's unbelievable. You know, I do a lot of Philadelphia radio, and every week we nitpick, and every week there's still questions, and it's almost like the team listens to us because then the next game they just go out and answer whatever the questions are that we had.
Undoubtedly, they're listening, Ross. You brought up a name there. I know you tweeted about him. Trevor Lawrence. Where's his game at?
Well, it had been very good so far this year, really good. But it was a step back. And I think he really struggled in the weather. I mean, I could tell the weather was really bothering him. It's interesting because he has big hands. He's a big kid, but he fumbled 4 times, and 2 of which were unforced errors. One time he was just running. Another time it was on a snap. He did not handle the weather very well at all, and it was a big factor in the game. Trevor Lawrence's inability to handle the rain. Jalen Hurts was much better in the conditions than Lawrence was.
Ross, let's go to the Seahawks and the Lions. Not a lot of defense there. Hey, look, everyone's raving about Geno Smith, but he was going up and down the field at will. They did not punt once, the Seahawks. Over 1,000 yards total offense. Are you okay with games like that as a fan? No defense, but tons of offense?
Yeah, who isn't, Rick? Are there people that are anti that?
No, but hey, what about the defense? They're getting a lot, it was pretty bad.
Your question was, am I okay with a 48-45 high-scoring, entertaining football game?
Yeah.
What if my answer was no, I'm not okay with it? Then what do we do?
Well, because when the both teams do looking at film today, Ross,
coaches might not be happy.
Coaches aren't going to be happy with the defense.
Yeah. Rick, I'm not okay with it. Back to you. No, I mean, listen, you're right. The defense was not good.
Yeah.
The Lions' defense has been horrific.
Yeah.
But it was a highly entertaining game, and really it felt like a big swing game for both those teams, right? Mm-hmm. Neither one of them is very good, but you get to 2-2 like Seattle, and you're feeling pretty good about yourselves, right? Because nobody thinks you're going to be very good this year. Detroit 1-3, it's not good. When I was in Detroit 2 weeks ago, they were talking playoffs ever since they lost to the Vikings in a game they blew late. Now they lose at home to Seattle. I think there will be a very different mindset and mentality up there now in Detroit. But for Seattle, I am really surprised and impressed with what they've done offensively. Rashad Penny looks like he shot out of a cannon on some of these runs. And Geno Smith, quite frankly, has been way, way better than I ever thought he'd be. It's impressive.
Buffalo and Baltimore, John Harbaugh getting a lot of criticism right now, did not kick the field goal. Fourth, 4th and goal from the 2-yard line. What are your thoughts on that decision?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Right? Because, you kick the field goal and you go up by 3. What do you think the Bills are going to do after that?
Yep.
Like, by the way, the Bills marched right down to the 1-yard line and just took knees until they kicked the game-winning field goal. So the Bills still could have gone down and scored a touchdown. There's all these different factors in play, right? So Harbaugh is thinking, if we kick a field goal, what are the odds the Bills kick a field goal to tie it? Very high. Get a touchdown to win it, decently high with Josh Allen. If we score a touchdown, we got a much better chance. And even if you don't get the touchdown and you pin the Bills at the 2-yard line, it sort of changes the dynamic of how aggressive the Bills are offensively. You're a little bit more nervous about turnover down there. Maybe even get the ball back if you're the Ravens. I don't think Harbaugh took into account an interception. It's a bad decision in hindsight because of the result, which was the Lamar Jackson interception, gave the Bills the ball at the 20. If the ball was at the 2, like Harbaugh thought was worst case scenario, I think it might have turned out differently.
Ross, I think a lot of people had a problem with the play call versus the fact they went for it on 4th down. Ross, do you have a problem with nobody has a problem with Josh Allen, the way he plays, but what about the fact that he runs the football so much, rather recklessly? Do you worry about his future, his health?
A little bit, yeah. Because it's not just whether or not he suffers an injury that forces him to miss time or considerable time. That's obviously the biggest concern, but those hits take their toll. The question is, how good is he feeling in December and January when it really matters if he's taking shots like that all year? Does it affect his play? I can speak to that, right? I mean, I played late in the year one year with a herniated disc in my back, and I was okay, but I was probably a little bit worse than I normally was, which is bad. Because I was only average to start with. So then I was below average when I was playing with a herniated disc. So, I am a little bit worried about that. On the flip side, I love the way he plays.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of what, like, Donnie, that's what he needed to do to win the game. He needed to do that to win the game. And that's what's so cool about him is it feels like he understands that. And he's just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do this, but I don't care. We're going to win the game. I'm going to chuck it. I'm going to run dudes over. And so we'll see. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. But I think, on some level, you got to win the game, right? Like, it doesn't really help the Bills if he stays healthy, but they lose that game, and then they're 2-2, and they're looking up at the Chiefs and the Ravens in the standings. I mean, they need to get home field advantage, too.
All right, Ross, back to Detroit, Seattle. You probably knew this was coming, but DK Metcalf carted off the field to go to the bathroom. Can you relate? Not in everyday life, but football-wise.
Yeah. So I don't ever remember having to go number 2 during a game or having that issue, which is clearly the issue according to DK Metcalf's social media.
Yeah.
But I think I told you guys this before. I used to just pee my pants every game. You know that, right? We talked about that, right?
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, about 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter usually. Because here's the thing. I didn't want to get cramps, so I would hydrate a lot. Pedialyte, Gatorade, all those things. You go to the bathroom at halftime, but then I always had the urge, like midway through the 4th quarter, where I really had to pee. Nowadays, by the way, they can just go in the blue tent and do that. We didn't have a tent back then.
Right.
I can't call timeout. Can I run up the tunnel to go take a leak? No, can't do it. So I would just sit down on the bench, get a couple of those white Gatorade towels, put them around my crotch and just go, sop it up, soak it up as best I could, chuck them in the trash can. Don't want guys wiping off their sweat with that.
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
But I don't want to be out there, feeling like last thing I wanted was in the 2-minute drill to win the game. I'm like, oh man, I really got to pee. No, I don't want that feeling. So I peed on the bench outside like a man.
Yeah, and it was probably common, right? It wasn't just you; it was everybody, right?
No, there were other guys that did it. I don't know if that it was common. I've heard of other guys doing it, but Most guys, I guess, could hold it. I don't know. I just drank too much. I don't know. Maybe I have a smaller bladder. I don't care. I don't feel bad about it at all. It gave me a good story, and I felt quite relieved after that for the rest of the game. That's when I played my best football.
Hey, tough transition, but we got to ask you this because we haven't had you on since last Monday, but the way the Dolphins have handled Tua, Ross, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was pretty outspoken about this. It's interesting. This rarely happens, right? So obviously I have the Even Money Betting podcast, but I do the Ross Tucker Football podcast, 30 minutes or less every day. I can't remember the last time that I led the show twice in the same week with the same topic.
Yeah.
Monday last week I talked about it because of what had happened this Sunday against the Bills. And then Friday I talked about it after what happened Thursday night against the Bengals. It's really simple. The issue is not Thursday night. The issue is Sunday. The issue is on Sunday, they said he never had a concussion. They're full of crap. Anybody with half a brain cell and Rick can tell you that he had a concussion on Sunday against the Bills, 8 days ago. The fact that they said it was his back is comical. I'm glad they removed the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant. I think it's really simple, right? If my mom and my wife's friend Patty and my wife's other friend Meg, if they all think he had a concussion and they all can't believe, and they're texting me and they can't believe he's going back in the game, he should be out, right? And that's what they're going to change. They're already leaking that they're going to change it. If they see gross motor instability, right? So kind of like Rick at about midnight, Friday and Saturday nights, like gross motor instability, okay? They should be out for the rest of the game. Rick shouldn't drive, even though he's got that awesome car from Basant Motors. Rick shouldn't drive, and Tua should not go back in the game.
Yeah, totally
Outstanding. Time for a bathroom break. Ross, appreciate this. Talk to you next week.
See you, dude. Sounds great.